at 10 years, what they think the projection's gonna be. I mean, they're operating with a 44-year-old or something like that grader. It seems to work, but it's not the new people that get on the grader that can use it. You have to have age to you. You gotta be very experienced to use it. Part of the reason.
Also, you need to know how to put a good crown on the road.
Well, that's a whole different line item. That should be increased. That's gonna be, that really is training. These people need to go and they need to get some training. There's nobody there to train them. Everybody is new and nobody's really done it. So there's some management things that need to take place. That I think that you are going to see an inflated budget for certain reasons, and one of them is apparatus needs to start getting fixed or replaced. Wages are not all that great. I mean, you're paying somebody who comes on part-time with a CDL $19 an hour. I give my daughter $20 an hour to help me build something, you know.
You go to McDonald's for $19 an hour, you get benefits, you get...
$18.50, my stepdaughter just went to McDonald's
I know.
part-time.
I've always said we
So,
do so poorly.
the wage issue is a very serious issue that needs to be taken care of, because you're not gonna be able to retain, or recruit help. I mean, we've been fortunate to recruit the help that we have in a fairly short period of time. But now we're gonna have to retain them, and that's a part of that is this board. And hopefully, there can be some good justification for it when the highway comes before you.
So my other question is, and it's just, I've heard out there that he's looking at a new grader. Do we need a big grader like we have, or can we downsize it to?
You can't, so I did some research on graders, and the biggest issue with a grader is blade length and weight. You need, because Grafton has stuff like ledge pack on its roads, it needs to be able to dig through that ledge pack. So it needs the weight. If you don't have the weight, then the machine starts to ride up, the tires start to spin, so you gotta pick up your blade. And then you start to get a choppy road. I mean, and we have ditches that, I mean, at this point, you gotta go out there with a machine, like an excavator or a backhoe, and dig out the ditches. You can't do it with the grader at this point, because there's too much dirt in the ditches.
This is partly the effect of the weather, I think.
Well, I don't think the ditches have been done in this town for 3 years.
But it doesn't help the fact that we've had this enormous...
Well, it doesn't help that we didn't have any employees.
Yeah.
You know, and now we've got employees, but they don't have the training. You see what I'm saying? I mean, there's definitely going to be a learning curve for them, and a little bit of pain for the town to take over after somebody who's been here for 30-something years and knew the equipment and knew where every culvert was that he had to pick the blade up for. And, you know, he just knew which spot blows out all the time on which road.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew where he needed to be and when he needed to be there. It's all a surprise to them. You know, it's like, oh, that part of the road's gone now. Well, we'll go and put a Band-Aid on it. Really what they should be doing is saying, hey, yeah, if we spend $3,000 on that part of the road, we won't have to put a Band-Aid on it, a $1,500 Band-Aid on it every single spring. That's the thinking that needs to go on. Hopefully, that's what they bring to this board.
Well, I was asked that question, so that's why I figured now is the time to ask.
Sure. I mean, we'll see. I offered to help Highway through the budgeting process and try and see where we, you know, what we could do, he needs to be transparent. And he needs to have a good explanation of why. I I think, look, it's no secret that the police budget doubled in my time. There's a reason for it. We had 30-something burglaries on my first year. What'd we have, 2 my last year? You know, so if you don't have anything to work with, you're not gonna be effective or efficient, or, you know, you're not gonna do, you can just sit around and collect your pay, you know, because that's the only thing that's in the budget.
Right.
But then again, part of that is the department heads have to show that they're willing to work, and that's what they want to do. So give me the money, and I will make sure that it gets done. It's going to be more money than
It's going to be very interesting.
right. So hopefully you can do a good job on forecasting the next 10 years and breaking it down. I mean, I remember one of my very first years I came to you guys, I told you, salary is a joke. You know, I mean, so a police chief was making $43,500. The neighboring town was getting 70-something thousand. You know, I mean, you're not gonna hang on to me. But I told the budget committee that I will fix everything first, but expect that it's gonna go up. And here's this year, this is what next year is gonna look like. 6 years later, I finally came to you guys and said, okay, it's time to fix the wages. You know, and now those have been fixed. So that's kind of what the highway has to do, as far as I'm concerned, with this board, is to just come and lay it all out and say, this is the condition we're in. I mean, the roads are in the condition that they're in right now because they just don't, they can't get to it. They don't, you know what I mean? Every town just got hit with a bunch of rain, and they're having some trouble getting around the town. So, but they do have the help, they gotta figure it out.
Just anecdotally, the
I mean,
grading
I don't
of
think
Gifford
that-
Hill Road up through Brock Hill is the most disastrous thing I've
Well,
ever seen
so-
in my life.
That's all, you know, that's all part of knowing how to run the grader. You know, I mean, that was somebody that, we have a part-time grader operator from a different town, from Bridgewater.
Uh-huh.
Entirely different grading and different job at the end of it. But then again, I could even go completely further, and I can say that you could go to, say, Enfield. When they grade a road, what do they do afterwards? What's the best thing you can do for a road so you don't have to grade it in the next week? You roll it, you drive on it. You know, Bobby used to go up and take the stuff out of the ditches, and he would run and grade it at the same time, run the loader back and forth, and it would keep, I mean, Wild Meadow would keep for all season. It's a they gotta learn, you know, those techniques. Is what
And
it
I
is.
remember what John used to say about Bobby.
They're not bad guys, it's a group of good people, and, you know, they,
So this part-time, he's not working every weekend?
I think he's only working 1 day a week,
I know he was just working on the weekends, certain weekends,
so,
but he opted to,
he also offered to train.
right, so why not pull somebody off the highway during the week and say, you know, we want to train you, so,
It's really only been going on for, what, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, has it been? So, all I can say is it's been raining for,
no, I didn't say that, but it's been longer
7
than that,
weeks.
because I remember people coming into the dump on Sunday and saying, can you believe Kingsman Highway got graded on Sunday? People were,
right, and it did, and I think Williams Hill Road also got graded on a Sunday or something.
yeah, well, that's what this guy was doing, Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, which is perfectly fine, I mean,
Right.
as long as the road's getting graded, you're not gonna hear me complain.
No, I'm not complaining, it's just, I think, he was offering to train some of the full-time staff, but nobody has gone to learn how to grade.
I don't know if they've actually ventured into the training yet. I can't answer that. So hopefully they do take advantage of it, because they need to take advantage of it.
Right.
And, you know, I've talked with them about it, and they know that. So, I can't be the highway department manager, you know what I mean? I'm a person that goes there and says, hey, how are you guys doing? Tell me what's going on.
Well, it's
They
just-
have their own department head, you know, and I'm a selectman that can make decisions
It's just
when there's somebody else that says the same thing I do.
right, it's just a question that people are asking, and
Well, they should ask the selectmen, is what they should do. If they wanna know about their roads, then call the selectman's office and ask. Or, I mean, you can call highway, but hopefully he's out working. And chances of you can get the selectmen most any time, and then they can get you an answer.
Are there any other departments that you see anything
right.
that stands out that might be coming up? Recycling center, nothing big or
I don't
that we're looking at?
see anything at the moment, but then again, I haven't gone and asked the question.
We've got a
Hey, look,
couple months in.
You know, what's going on? Is there gonna be anything big through the budgeting process this year?
What's the scoop on the new ambulance? Is the grant coming through? Any
I-
word on it?
I do not know yet. I don't know. So, I mean, they're all good questions, you know, we should probably
I mean,
have some answers.
I heard the fire department got their grant.
They did, yeah.
40,000, was it?
Yes.
So, that's gonna, from, talking with Roger, that's gonna put the fire department in pretty good shape.
Well, it is. What it's gonna do is it's gonna update the things that needed to be updated so they don't fall into the same position that they were before, where you don't have the tools to do the job.
Right.
I mean, it's one thing to wear a badge and drive a truck, but if you can't do the job, then what good is it?
Right.
So the 40,000 is gonna help them out a lot. But with that said, I wouldn't strip away their budget because
No,
They-
we're
you know
not,
what I mean?
we're not looking
I
at,
would still say, look, what does it cost to fight fires for a year? And that way he can keep up on the stuff. Because ultimately, that's what happened. You know, the times are changing. You used to have department heads like Merle, who would do almost anything for the town. Just give his time, give his own notebooks, give his own, you know, stuff. Nobody's gonna do that anymore. You know what I mean? No, I mean, the town should be able to buy their own notebooks. They should be able to, and if the department head's not asking for that stuff, I question whether or not they're doing their job properly. You know, because it's necessary. I'm waiting for more.
I'm just trying to remember that.
Yeah, you gotta ask the I can probably come up with some answers for you. Have you asked Jenny? Like, when does she show up at these meetings?
We've
Right.
only had one meeting.
Right.
Oh, okay,
We've only had one.
okay. Jot down some stuff, some questions that you have, and I'll try to get them answered. I mean, they should be pretty straightforward. If it's stuff that the selectmen have.
I have to commend you with the computer business, that finally,
Yeah, it's,
we are on a track. I have to commend you.
you cannot do
Honest
your
to God,
job properly.
Having lost my whole computer and all my data and everything else, I cannot tell you how
Mhm.
happy I am that you've taken these steps.
And it's not that Grafton can't afford this stuff.
We sh
It's that
a municipality cannot go 9 years on a
you
computer.
can't, it costs you more money to do it without the stuff than to do it with it, you know, or with faulty equipment. Well, look at the highway. It costs more money to do it without decent stuff, you know, and everything is terrible. I mean,
I have
that.
to say,
Isn't it the same thing, is it, you know, investment and spending ends up by saving you money.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But we're at the moment, sort of unpleasant moment now, that we've got to bite the bullet and you've got to spend some money. So,
Well, in some of the departments, yes. So thankfully, the selectmen got that accomplished, and
well,
it's
yes, so,
taken care of.
so one thing's out
So-
of the way,
so-
but I mean, I think we shouldn't sort of sit back and,
Yep,
try
we
and
will
nickel and
reap the
dime.
benefits for the next few years for having something like that.
But for years and years and years, we had a computer line item, and it was taken away 3 years ago. But we had a computer line item so that if somebody's printer broke, we had the money to buy a printer or,
It doesn't make any sense that there isn't a
that you
computer.
don't.
So,
Exactly. But anyways, as a department head, I appreciate what you're doing.
other than maybe the select board decided, look, if they want a computer, they can buy it with their department money, they can forecast for it and all that. But-
Never happened.
All the more reason why you need a CIP, because we need to know. Computers aren't something
They should
that.
be on a rotating basis. You know,
Exactly.
I've had many conversations with Alan.
Exactly.
It's crazy to think that anybody should have a 9-year-old computer and not expect it to blow up.
going back to what you were saying about the CIP, it means that the departments have to come up with their own long-term plans and bring it.
I think that's best.
I
think-
absolutely do, but
Yep.
how aware are people at this point that
I spoke with Highway back in when was I elected? March.
you know,
I spoke with police way back then. And I know that I've spoken with a transfer station about it, so there are some departments that are aware.
They're aware, but how are they willing to do it? That's gonna be,
Well, I think that, you know,
I mean, it's a long
Should be an
process.
option.
I think that's gonna be an issue for the selectmen. If you have a department head that's not providing you with what you're asking for, or, you know, what.
Well, I mean, it's a long process,
Planning
so
board.
I mean, and you spoke to him back in March on it.
Mhm.
So this is things that they should be jotting down, notes.
They should have been taking notes all year. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, and I don't know that they haven't. They, you
No,
know,
I-
they certainly should be.
I just get that feeling that, yeah, come budget season, when they put in their budgets, it's not gonna be there.
Right. We'll see. They've got to come to the selectmen as well, so I'm gonna give them a good heads up about really having a budget and also having some, you know, a future forecast on how this town plans on spending their money. It's just good business is what it is.
Legal expenses, do we have anything big in the works right now, or are we sitting pretty good?
I don't think we have anything really
Great.
in the works.
And I noticed that public assistance is way down, way
Yes.
down.
what's way down?
Public assistance?
Welfare.
So, we had another welfare person that did the same thing. It's all about, it's not because there's less people going, I don't think, it's because you have them go, you make phone calls for them to go elsewhere and you find them help. That way you can spread it out. Grafton
Well, I
doesn't
know
have to come up with all of
that
it.
Sarah and Heather have been working to compile a list of resources for people.
Sure, and very important.
Yeah.
That keeps the cost for Grafton
Although I
down.
passed a resource on to somebody that really, really, really should have taken advantage of it and completely missed the deadline.
Mhm.
Never came into the office to pick up the information.
Right.
Was offered to be mailed to him and everything else and just,
Well, you can't force feed people.
So what do you think we can proactively, not just the budget committee, I'm talking about you in your official capacity as a leader for our town, what do you think can be done to keep our town progressing and making things better for people who live in our town?
I think there's lots of things that can be done. But I think,
Double the population and improve the housing.
well, without outright saying something like that, I mean, obviously Grafton's gotta keep up with its surroundings. So, you do have to try and broaden the tax base. If you do small things like build a food pavilion and people from other towns and other places come there on the 4th of July because it's a great event, they see that, and then, oh, a piece of property in Grafton, I love that place, they have this. Oh, and then when they move here or they buy something here and they bring their money with them, and then they're given a history book because, you know, they bought something in town, that tells their other friends, hey, this is a great place to be, you know? And I'm not saying that you need to double the size of the town in a year and a half. Obviously,
No, I didn't mean
yeah,
that.
there's obviously places in New Hampshire where that took a toll. Derry, London Dairy, you know, those places back in the 80s. But Grafton does have to continue to promote new houses and new housing. You can take broken down houses away from people and their property is trashed, and you can put it up for sale, and the only person that's gonna buy it is another potential problem person. You know, unless somebody's gonna go in and clean it up and do something with it. But historically, it's always been a person who's gonna lose the property again, or a person who financially, or it's just not beneficial to the town. It might be a person with, I don't have a problem with people with kids, obviously I had a lot of them. But they might have 4 kids and live in a camper. And the town's not getting any tax money, but there's about $100,000 worth of kids going to school. That affects our town. If those things start turning around a little bit, then I think that the town could broaden that tax base. You need better housing, you may even need a store, you may need,
a store.
Really?
you know,
I think a store would be a beautiful
Yeah.
idea.
A number of people, that's the first thing they comment on when they come in.
without it, we actually pay premium price for nothing to live like this. You know, that's the way it goes.
How about, new business in town, you know, attracting business?
I'm not sure how to go about trying to attract business. I think that it would probably come slowly if you did things, small things like they do now. I mean, believe it or not, but the library does all these little community things, the rec field does community things. The more of that goes on, the more people you attract, somebody's bound to start spending money on maybe a store or, you know, something like that that's gonna be beneficial to everybody.
Do we get, does business get taxed differently than residences?
So not in this town, we don't have
We don't have
zoning.
zoning.
Is that what it takes to do that?
I'm not sure, but we
Zoning.
Because I know some towns
we don't have anything.
didn't have zoning, but a business would get taxed more than a resident.
Oh, I've never heard that.
Yeah,
That's the case in Connecticut.
In Connecticut, I've never heard that.
yeah.
Zoning's a 4-letter word in this
I,
town.
right,
So
well,
it's
I'm not saying I'm
That
in
won't
favor of
happen.
zoning, but.
So I get a view tax, and what do I see? That ugly church out of my floor-to-ceiling dining room and living room windows. That's my view that I get taxed for. But the assessor says some people would really like that.
And again, you pay a premium price in this town because we've got to come up with a certain amount of money. And we only have so many people, and we only have so many decent properties. So unfortunately,
Well, that's the great thing about people
Well,
come from
no.
out of town, who paid far higher taxes in other places.
they're
The
happy.
tax bill is nothing.
They are happy to come here.
I don't ever complain about my taxes. I came from Claremont.
Right, that,
I
exactly.
don't complain about my
Well,
taxes
Well, I was
ever.
thinking about my taxes. My tax bill, when I first came here, was 1/10 of my tax bill today. So that gives you an impression of
But you gotta remember too, they're not really comparing
Oh,
what
but
they're
I'm
getting
not. I'm
for their
talking
tax
about.
bill
I'm talking
versus
about people
what they got, where they
making-
were for their tax bill.
making comments about inflation.
Mhm.
Inflation is endemic to the society that we live in. I mean, the 2%
I mean,
means that everything doubles.
I've taken my tractor and gone out and done my own road, filled in the potholes. My neighbor's done the same thing. Maybe that's a direct effect on our highway budget, I don't know, they'll have to speak to that. So, I'm perfectly fine with doing it, I guess, it doesn't bother me at all, but that's me, that may not be the majority of the other people in town, who, one, probably don't have the apparatus to do it. I don't know, these seem like very well thought out questions.
Well,
So hopefully I've answered the way that you, hopefully I've answered your question that you actually wanted answered.
I just am concerned with the sustainability of our town.
Well, right now, I don't think there's next to no sustainability. Unfortunately, it's been that way for a long time, 25 years probably. I mean, before that, I think that Grafton it had community, it had this and that. And people thought that it was actually gonna turn into something. It hasn't turned into much of, I mean, it's the same place, only a few more people.
And a few less businesses. We've lost quite a few
Right,
businesses.
well, I guess it's not the same place, it's very much a lesser place. I mean, we've seen
We've lost
Ruggles
a lot of
Mine, we've
businesses.
seen a garage, more than one garage go. We've seen
The store,
at least 3 or 4 stores go.
Right,
Um,
3.
How about forming a committee of people to brainstorm?
To
That's it.
brainstorm a productive direction for Grafton.
Kenny Cushion wanted to form such a committee. He had contacted me to see if I'd be willing to sit on it. So you
I-
know,
I-
we're talking- not too
How
long
long
ago.
have I was going to say, when did you do that?
Not too long ago, he's approached me a couple times.
You know what? Such a committee might be advantageous for the town. You don't know. You form it now, 10 years from now, you see what's going on. It doesn't hurt. Communication usually works best. And no communication, you get nothing.
One of the things that we had talked about was getting the bus from Canaan
That would be
to
great.
come to Grafton.
If
I
you
actually
actually,
talked to someone at Advanced Transit,
Uh-huh.
and they said they wouldn't consider it because there's not enough people that would utilize it.
right,
And as it is, they cut their routes down, now some of the hours, they don't come into
Right.
Canaan even, they only go as far as Mescoma High School. But I did talk to someone at Advanced Transit a few years ago about that.
Well, we'll buy our own bus.
Well, that's
Because
part of
I
it.
utilized the
You
bus,
know,
it was a great feature.
Yeah.
why isn't there a retired person in town that buys a bus? I mean, I know plenty of people that want to go to Lebanon and they ask for rides. I gave somebody a ride last week.
Do you still have your tool bus?
There you go, do a trip to Lebanon, 3 days a week. You park your cars at the rec field and let's go, I mean, the town could go in a whole bunch of different directions,
And there's a lot we don't know about. I mean, I know that there's at least 2 people in town that actually help people with transportation and stuff. They don't advertise it,
Right,
but they certainly do it.
yeah. So I know all the same people, and that's why I say that there is a demand for it.
Mm. If I only had time.
So I think a committee actually would be good for the town, if you could find people that were interested in undertaking it. And then I mean, I can tell you that as a selectman, I would like to hear the information that they've gathered, and potentially try and implement things that I thought fit for the town. I mean, right now, it just seems like we're just existing and waiting for the next lawsuit or something, you know, which is kind of embarrassing, to be honest with you.
What was the last one?
I don't know, I'd have to look.
Has there been an assistant hired for Sarah?
No. So the person that was chosen ended up declining the offer. So it's going back to the drawing board.
That's on a fill-in kind of basis?
Yeah, it's just and that's the problem. It's just a fill-in type basis. However, there's a lot to learn.
Right.
So it's one of those things where you go to work and learn all this stuff, and then all of a sudden you're never working. I mean, what kind of, who wants
That's
that
my
now?
problem, to get a
So-
deputy.
Nowadays, people, it's different. You don't have, this isn't 1950s or even up to the 70s. You don't have stay-at-home people. You have mom and dad that work not just one job. You know, it used to be maybe one person in the house worked. The other person could do community stuff and take care of kids and that sort of thing. Now both work. And they don't just work, they work 2 and 3 jobs apiece.
And it isn't just training them, they have to have consistency, they've gotta be able to keep up their skills. I mean, I have to have Penny come in every week. I mean, there's no way she can keep up with all the new rules and regulations and.
It's like we're at the size where you'd like to be able to hire somebody and so that they could actually work there, but you don't really need them. Only
Or you can't afford it.
you can't afford them, but you also don't really need them unless you try and combine a bunch of things. But then that's too many hats for one person, and that's never a good thing either.
Well,
So,
it depends on the job, like, I definitely, I mean, I'm not open 10 hours a week, as you well know, I'm there like 30 hours
right,
a week.
exactly.
But, you know.
There's a problem with
there's a-
department heads like you.
Well,
You
the
give too
work
much
is
of your time.
there, the work is
I
there,
know,
you
I
gotta
get
do the work.
Yep.
You know, you can't do it in 10 hours a week, but.
Right.
And the same thing, you know, that, although Sarah is, but it takes a lot to learn that job for Sarah.
It
I've
does.
done it, I know what it
Yeah,
is.
yeah. So, I don't know, it could be a very difficult position to fill,
All right.
unless you find somebody that has been in the office, you know, or close to the office, that's willing to just say, okay, I'll help out.
So my next question is, has the select board talked about a town administrator, town manager?
No, they haven't.
How many times has the town tried that? What was the vote?
Yeah.
No, no, no.
No, right, I know,
Well,
but
I think it all depends on how you approach it. Look, you need to educate the people as to what you're trying to accomplish whenever you want to try and accomplish something. If you don't tell them, and all they see is, it's gonna cost me $70,000, no, absolutely not. You have to, somebody would have to tell even me, look, the town manager can apply for grants, they can do all this other stuff in their
Hiring,
time, and they actually
recruiting.
make money for the town, you know, a good town manager. Plus, they have, you know, they actually do everything legally. They know the rules, they know the laws, they know, you know, there is no, oh, I didn't mean to do that, oops. No, the town manager says this is the best way to go. The selectmen take that advice, and then they try to adapt it to the people that they know in town, and do the right thing for the town. I think a town manager would be perfectly fine, because I know they'd be able to make their pay. I mean, fire department, $40,000 all at once is 6 months' pay. You know, never mind any other grants that could potentially be put in for. Or just knowing that you have to do certain paperwork throughout the year in order to apply for a grant is a big help. You know, and our departments don't really know that. I mean, they're learning quickly, but again, all these other towns around us have a manager and they've been doing it for years.
Right, so that's why I kind of think, I mean, you're new to the position, and chances of us getting somebody that is retired and has all kinds of time to devote to the job, I mean, you know yourself that how much it entails, and how much are you able to...
It's a full-time position if you're actually gonna try and do the right thing for the town.
Right, so I would think that you could
How-
take a start to get the ball rolling, and with the other two selectmen, and start talking about this.
Yeah.
Start educating some of the people now.
However, the town manager could essentially sit in for, say, the position, when,
Right, exactly, yeah.
so you know, that position could be wiped out completely. And there are other things, I'm sure there's a boatload of stuff that could change to reap the benefits of what a town manager could provide. Yeah, I mean, I'll spread the word, I'll say something, but we'll see where it goes. I
No.
mean,
No, but if anybody's on the board
So,
has an interest in the town in itself,
mhm.
then,
So all really, you know, they're good ideas, and I don't want to shoot them down. If they came from, say, a group and got tossed in the selectman's lap to say, hey, what do you guys think about this? You know, and then they talked about it amongst the three of them in a public meeting for the town to understand the pros and cons, you know, behind it. That's how you implement change. I mean, I like the town the way it is. I don't necessarily want a whole bunch of people here and, you know, a big police department and all the problems that you get with a big population.
Right.
You know, I don't, but there's other directions that the town can go. You know, there are other small towns that are doing quite well. And even towns very close to us.
I grilled you enough.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Sure, no problem. I mean, I don't know if we've got much budget work done, but
Well,
I
it's good
think
to
we've
hear
done
your
more
ideas.
important work than budget work, frankly. Thank you very much for being here.
I think just open lines of communication with the department heads for the
Right.
forecasting with the budget. And I'm more than willing to speak to them, at least the ones that I work with.
Right.
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.